If you are looking at a piece of information today about the collections of your practice and you have an opinion about it and you want to try to get the team to change something to impact that number, we have to think about what got us to the point of where we are right now. So for instance, you see a patient today. Chances are, unless you are a, ER trauma surgeon, chances are whatever you're witnessing today was not created today. It was created over time. Welcome to another episode of the Physician Growth Accelerator, a show where we break down your private medical practice systems into vitals, give you the tools to diagnose root cause of what may be restricting your growth, and prescribe what to do about it. I'm your host, Zed Williamson, and I believe that everything we experience is the perfect outcome of our current system. And so if we want something different, we just have to tweak the system. Now, if you are listening to this podcast for the first time, welcome. Appreciate you taking the time. If it is beyond your first time, I'm going to ask for a favor. In whatever application you use to listen to podcasts, if you'd please go in and review the podcast. It's kind of your way to say thank you for this content if you're getting good value out of it. And it helps the podcast grow because these platforms look at the reviews and then it'll share it to more people. And we really want to get the word out. So wherever you're listening to this podcast, go and review the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll be watching to see if those numbers go up. So what I wanted to talk about today is submarine movies. Fun movies, right? Typically high action. There's a lot of things going on. But what the heck does that have to do with a medical practice? Well, if you ever think about these intense scenes in a submarine movie, it usually has to do with the captain kind of calling the turns in a blind scenario, right? Like they're looking at the charts, they're drawing, the guy's got the protractor out and the grease pencil and he's sweating, freaking out. He's got the stopwatch. We've got to make this turn at this specific degrees at this specific time because we have to make it around this underwater cliff. And they navigate it, right? But it's all based on understanding the numbers. They have a chart. The chart represents reality. They understand things like their speed, their direction. They understand things like what it takes to change direction, what it takes to change speed, either speed up or slow down. They understand the length and width of the submarine. So all these things come together that allow them to have that really exciting scene where they barely make it through the crevice in the underwater mountain range. I'm sure there's an official word for the underwater mountain range that is leaving me at this point, but that's okay. And so here's why this is important to business. If you are looking at a piece of information today about the collections of your practice and you have an opinion about it and you want to try to get the team to change something to impact that number, that is the same thing as one of those submarine captains complaining about the wall they just ran into. Okay, it is history. We can't do that. And in business, we have to think about what got us to the point of where we are right now. So for instance, you see a patient today. Chances are, unless you are a, ER trauma surgeon, chances are whatever you're witnessing today was not created today. It was created over time based on behavior from the patient. It could be, something that they've been doing something for 30 years, and that's why they're in your office today. And so the reason why you have to intervene and do something significant is because you can't just tell them to go like, oh, we'll just stop doing this and everything's going to be fine. That would have worked 30 years ago. But that's not going to work today. So in your business, understanding time and the relationship to the things you're witnessing is really important. So I want you to think about the collections that come in today. You have access to all this information. It's not necessarily fun to go dig into, but what is powerful about technology today is that it is accessible. And so imagine you take the collections from today and you go understand what work created those collections, meaning which patient visits and what days those patient visits were on. And then you would understand what led that patient to that patient visit that created the opportunity for you to have collections. And you could keep rewinding and go all the way back to potentially when was the first time that that patient made it to your website or called the practice inquiring about whether you could help them. And what you're going to find out is that it is highly likely that today's collection activities, revenue actually hitting your bank account from the work that you do as a private medical practice, was created 6 to 9 weeks ago. Are you a private practice leader dealing with team drama, growth headaches, or just trying to keep your head above water? Introducing the Physician Growth Accelerator membership, a free resource for our podcast listeners like you to get real solutions. Inside, you'll find exclusive materials, free courses, bonus podcast content, and live events, all designed to help your practice grow. It's free for now, so don't wait. Visit physiciangrowthaccelerator.com and click members to join today. And so imagine if you see something today and you act on today's information with only the focus of today's information, the potential issue you could create. If we bring the submarine idea back in, that would be like having a chart that was off by thousands of meters, or you not understanding your speed. So the reason this is important is because you can get into a scenario where you're trying to fix things quickly and you don't actually address what created the thing that you're going to fix. What if the impact you're seeing today is because of something you need to address that happened 9 weeks ago? Well, you go, well, the problem with that is I don't get to travel in time. That's true. And today is creating your 9 week in the future outcome. And so if you don't like what you see today and you try to fix what you see today so it impacts tomorrow, you could actually be creating a worse scenario for you 9 weeks from now when the actual outcome of today's activities will hit your business. Now, this is different for every practice, and it's something that must be known. You have to understand the time frame that exists in this interaction with a patient. How long does it take from when they try to get in touch with you for them to get into the office? How long does it take if you have a surgical practice and there's diagnostics involved? How long does it take for them to get that testing? How long does it take for them to go through whatever processes there are for them if they're a candidate for treatment? And how long does it take to get them treatment? And then how long does it take to get paid for that treatment? And if you understand that, that is like that submarine captain who can confidently make changes because all of the chart information is right. It's okay for him to accelerate, where someone else would be concerned about accelerating because they don't have an idea of what that means. But when you have this idea, then you can purposely go create a different outcome. I refer to it as kind of lifting our chin. The idea that if we were to run a race, a really slow or dangerous way to do that would be to be looking exactly where our feet are landing, okay? Staring straight down at our toes. It would not be an effective way to run a race if we wanted to win, right? We have to lift our chin and we have to see what obstacles there are in the future and how they're going to impact the decisions we make today. Because in your practice, your today decisions are impacting a day in the future. And that day in the future could be known because the data is there. It is a known thing. You just have to do a little research. And the power of this is really important. Because I want you to understand, just imagine right now, if I had a magic wand and I could just flip your experience with your private medical practice, and today you exactly knew how much you were going to collect 2 months from now. And you could change a behavior today to purposely change that dollar amount 3 months from now. And you could purposely change it to something specific that you want to achieve. Think of the kind of the weight that comes off your shoulders a little bit when you think about your business, and think about how the fog clears. Because now what you could be running into are decisions about the business. Do I need to hire somebody? Do we need this new software tool? Do we need to do this? Do I need a new location? And sometimes those decisions create stress because you are navigating a submarine and you don't trust the charts. Once you have that data, now things become clear. And you could clearly say, you know what? I don't need to hire someone because of A, B, and C. Or we need to hire someone and they need to start by this date, because that is how they're going to impact when the outcome is going to be in this number of weeks that's in the future that is built from my data. So the data is there. It takes digging into, but you can have absolutely accurate underwater charts for your business. And if you're ever curious to talk about these ideas, always feel free to reach out to the Physician Growth Accelerator. Our team works with private medical practices to basically clear the fog and create paths for you to achieve the things that you want to achieve. An easy way to get started is go to the website, physiciangrowthaccelerator.com. There's tons of resources, webinars, and even a sample diagnostic where you can start to understand the points in your practice that are likely creating the highest level of constraint, keeping you from achieving the goals you want to achieve. Because remember, everything we experience is the perfect outcome of our current system. So if we want something different, we have to tweak the system. With that, we'll see you next time on the Physician Growth Accelerator.